Chris Van Dissel, Footrot Program Manager in South Australia with PIRSA. Thanks for joining us on Flow.
No worries, thanks Ricky.
With the research you're doing at the moment, you've picked up there's some areas of concern within South Australia. Could we talk about those first?
Yeah, it's not necessarily specific areas of concern, just that we're monitoring the temperatures and the rainfall at the moment to see when footrot's going to start spreading this season. Being a seasonal disease, it usually starts spreading in spring, but we've had quite a cold winter, so we're just trying to pinpoint when the best time to warn producers to be on the lookout is.
Yeah, I thought I picked up there was a mention maybe in the Adelaide Plains. There was a specific mention in the South Australian audience.
Yes, yeah, we've had a couple of reports already on the Adelaide Plains of some issues in introduced stock, and that's probably both because they've come from more footrot prone areas, I suppose, the wetter areas of the state, but on the Adelaide Plains, as you know, it doesn't quite get as cold closer to the coast there, so yep. We're seeing development of footrot in a couple of flocks there already.
Well, first of all, what are the signs farmers need to be watching out for?
Oh, look, predominantly it's lameness, and I always say any observations of significant lameness in a flock in spring, you need to be suspicious of footrot. Footrot likes it warm and moist, as I said, and so it's probably the dominant cause of lameness as we're coming into spring as conditions warm up. Yeah.
And what about the trade of animals? The selling of the livestock yards and that sort of thing. How is it, from a biosecurity point of view, picked up at that level?
Yeah, so we have inspectors that attend all sale yards in South Australia, and they're on the lookout for lame sheep, among other things. So whilst, if you're down at Dublin Sale Yard and there's 10,000 sheep, you're not necessarily going to detect every line that's affected, but they're certainly pretty good at picking them up, and this is the time of year that they'll start to make those detections.
And when it comes to, I guess, monitoring these localities or possible areas, how local or micro are you able to get in terms of giving warnings to farmers in terms of the climatic conditions? Yeah,
so we're using Bureau data, so we can only use those weather stations that the Bureau collect both the maximum minimum temperature and rainfall, and that's reported on daily. We then run those parameters through a tool that we've developed on a weekly basis. And we just look for, what we're looking for is when the average temperature for a series of days is above 10 degrees and that we've had an inch of rainfall in the 28 days previous. So there you've got the warm enough temperatures for the bacteria to develop a lesion within the sheep as well as spread to other sheep. And you've also got the enough moisture for it to get going.
What's the best thing farmers should be doing if they do detect, not just in terms of reporting it, but in terms of the welfare of the animals themselves?
Oh, look, if you find it in a mob, it's good to isolate that mob from any other sheep on the property. If it's in a ram or something and you're joining, don't join that mob until you've checked out what the cause of the lameness is. But reporting early with footrot really is the key, because it's an extremely complicated disease. It's quite difficult to make an accurate diagnosis early in the spread period. We always take samples and we get lab tests done to work out what we're dealing with on the farm. And then our inspectors also run through a management program and write down a program for managing the disease sort of through the drier summer months, which is when you eradicate. But the key for farmers is to report it, get an accurate diagnosis, don't assume that it's not footrot, and then get good advice from our inspectors who are well sort of versed in dealing with the disease. Either that or your private vet who are often able to come out and take those samples as well.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering about. It's kind of a triangular thing, I imagine. Sometimes they might call a vet before they call PIRSA, and then somehow maybe the vet will be able to assist.
Definitely, yeah. No, we work in conjunction with all private vets on footrot. The more people, the merrier, as far as I'm concerned. And they're able to submit those samples, and they'll report to us as well. We liaise closely with the private vets in the wetter areas of the state where footrot is prevalent. And yeah, it's a real industry approach to managing the disease in South Australia.
Do you come across some caution from farmers about reporting it, or is it really something that it's sort of a, no blame sort of scenario? It's just one of those things that happens?
No, it's a great question, Ricky, because we're really trying to remove the stigma associated with both reporting and management of footrot. We've had a program since the 50s, and there always was some reluctance to report footrot. There was a bit of social stigma that went with it, and the message to farmers is it is just another disease of sheep, just like internal parasites or anything else, and the best way to deal with it is to report it and get the best advice. And that's why our sheep industry put money into the program, because they realise the benefits. But we don't want people sticking their heads in the sand and not reporting it, because the longer it's in a flock, the more sheep it will affect, the more it will affect both their welfare and your bottom line.
Yeah. So what's the research PIRSA's doing, or you're connected with doing, in this particular area?
Yeah, we're just doing a little bit of in-house research really to monitor those temperature and rainfall parameters with when we're starting to detect foot rot this year. So the parameters for foot rot, as I explained earlier, were sort of developed in the eastern states, and in South Australia, as we know, it's often a lot drier than the eastern states. So we're trying to work out whether that 10-degree average and the inch of rain in the month before is accurate for our areas, or whether foot rot can actually spread, when it's drier and maybe even colder than that.
And just the last question, and this came up from somewhere, I think, in the Riverina area, a comment from a farm peak body, someone suggesting that some states don't believe they have a foot rot problem. Can it extend at a state level, that burying the head in the sand about whether there's a foot rot problem in your state or not?
Oh, look, it certainly can, Ricky, and it also depends how much foot rot there is. Once you get to a certain level of any disease in the livestock industry, you get to the point where there might not be any point having a state-run management program, because the problem's so widespread. We certainly don't believe we're there yet in South Australia with that problem, and we believe we have a pretty effective management program.
Well, Chris Van Dissel, thanks for joining us on that important topic. And that's probably an important message among others. It's a no stigma scenario. If you've got an issue, let PIRSA know. It just helps everyone track the issue.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks very much for your time.